Picture this. It's pouring rain, it's late at night, and you realize you're completely out of milk for your morning coffee. In today's world, you pull out your phone, tap a few buttons, and a carton is sitting on your doormat in 10 minutes. But rewind the clock to March of 2020. The lockdowns hit, physical distancing protocols snapped into place overnight, and that effortless access to basic food vanished. Existing e-commerce supply chains completely fractured under the sudden massive weight of online orders. A standard grocery run that used to take 20 minutes in person was suddenly taking days or sometimes weeks to arrive at your door. A broken supply chain at a global scale left billions of dollars sitting on the table, waiting for a solution that actually worked when people needed it most. Trapped at home in Mumbai dealing with this exact same grocery shortage were Aadit, Palicha, and Kaivalya. They were 19 years old, and they held a golden ticket. They had already secured admission to Stanford University, a guaranteed path to the highest tiers of the tech industry, but they couldn't stop looking at the broken delivery system around them. They realized that if you could use an app to get a hot restaurant meal delivered in 30 minutes, the math should allow for basic, pre-packaged groceries to arrive in 10. They were staring at a crossroads. They could take the safe route to California, or they could stay in India and try to solve a logistical nightmare that massive, established corporations were failing to fix. They chose to stay, launching their first local experiment under the name Coronacart. They locked their focus entirely on a single neighborhood in Mumbai to test if the concept could survive the real world. At this stage, it was pure, unpolished effort. Aadit and Kaivalya were packing items into bags, jumping on scooters, and dodging Mumbai's notoriously unpredictable traffic to get orders to doors themselves. But sweating through manual labor doesn't scale. You can hustle to 50 deliveries a day, but human effort alone breaks down when guaranteeing a 10-minute window across an entire sprawling metropolis. To actually honor a 10-minute promise at scale, working harder was useless. They had to completely tear down the traditional architecture of retail supply chains and build anew. This diagram shows the standard retail model, a massive, centralized warehouse built where real estate is cheap, far outside the city limits. When an order is placed, delivery trucks have to carry goods from that single hub across miles of open highway, eventually getting stalled out and tangled in inner-city grids. Time is lost purely to distance and traffic. Aadit and Kaivalya's solution was the dark store model. They abandoned the giant central hub entirely. Instead, they leased dozens of small, hidden micro-warehouses and embedded them directly into the center of high-density residential neighborhoods. By severely restricting the delivery radius of each dark store to just 2 to 3 kilometers, the actual transit time is hard-capped. The math guarantees the journey takes only a few minutes. Meeting that 10-minute window relies on dedicated fulfillment riders stationed immediately outside these hyperlocal stores. They are ready to execute that ultra-short final mile the second a bag is packed. Zepto's 10-minute promise is a highly calculated, algorithmically driven real estate strategy that minimizes distance before the order is even placed. Their micro-warehouses were proving the concept worked, but the clock was ticking. The U.S. academic year was about to begin, forcing a hard deadline on their lives. They faced a stark choice: board a plane to secure a world-class education, or dive into a high cash burn startup model that statistically had a 99% chance of going to zero. They chose the dark stores. They dropped out of Stanford, completely scaled up their operation, and officially rebranded the company as Zepto. As the initial model's scalability became undeniable, major global investors began pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into the venture, rapidly inflating Zepto's valuation. Throughout 2021, Zepto's valuation exploded as they secured hundreds of millions of dollars in funding to conquer the massive Indian market. But then the climate turned. This chart shows the steep decline in global venture capital during the 2022 and 2023 funding winter. Capital dried up instantly, and early hiring missteps threatened to pull Zepto under. Instead of trying to raise more money in a dead market, they looked inward. They ruthlessly optimized the efficiency of their existing dark stores, bringing down burn rates and tightening their logistics. By keeping their heads down and fixing the machine, they pushed through the crunch. By 2023, Aadit and Kaivalya became India's youngest unicorn founders, managing millions of daily orders. Aadit and Kaivalya identified a fundamental logistics failure and risked a guaranteed future to solve it. Their journey shows that a billion-dollar empire can be built on the back of a correctly identified problem and the courage to execute under pressure. If you want to dive deeper into startups that pulled off the impossible, hit subscribe.